Our resident lawyer, Despina Priala of boutique law firm Priala Legal in Runaway Bay, is with us every Thursday to offer her legal expertise by providing some general advice on the latest hot topics. Of course, having experience spanning more than 25 years in the area of property and commercial law, she joins us now. Good morning, Despina.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Brooke. Good morning, Wayne.
Good morning, Despina, and welcome back.
Good morning. Our first hot topic. Are you an independent contractor or an employee? What appears to be a very grey area for food delivery company Deliveroo, since they just lost a big court case to a former driver who thought he genuinely was an employee. So, Despina, if you can just give us a bit of a rundown in between the differences of an independent contractor and an employee.
Okay, so talking very general, because it does always depend on the circumstances of each case. So very general, you've got an independent contractor is generally someone who has their own ABN, who sets their own times, not fixed with any particular period of work, and is not as permanent or seen as permanent as an employee. But that's a very general summary between the differences between the two. And if you go on the Fair Work website, they've actually listed for you examples that can help you to determine whether you could be considered an independent contractor or whether you could be considered an employee, and that's really important before you start employment. But this particular case, it was really fascinating because this person was employed, I think, for 4 years, it says, by Deliveroo. I think everyone knows who Deliveroo is and the company and what they do. So this particular person was classed or identified from the beginning in the documentation as an independent contractor. And as it played out with the Fair Work Commission, it actually turned out that he was considered an employee and not an independent contractor. And it came about because he was terminated in the end for apparently being too slow on his bike.
After 4 years. So it took them that long?
It took them that long to work that one out, apparently. And obviously he wasn't happy with that. And it did happen through the pandemic. And that would have affected him, obviously, financially. So he took them to task and went to the Fair Work Commission, as anybody could, if they were terminated on unjust grounds or unreasonable grounds, or they thought they were. And the Commission said that, no, we actually consider him an employee, not an independent contractor, regardless of what was noted in the documentation by Deliveroo. So, and there were certain things that the Commission actually took into account, which I thought we'd go through, which might help other people listening who might be in a similar situation and not sure if they're independent contractor or employee.
That's actually quite true, because when you accept a job, you don't necessarily know all the legal ins and outs, the niceties. Am I actually an employee? Am I a contractor? Etc. etc. It's just a job.
Well, that's right. So your employer says, look, you're going to be an independent contractor, and you go, oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
sure.
I've got money, I don't care.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. And you probably feel a bit more empowered, perhaps, by thinking, oh, okay, I'm an independent contractor, work for myself, run my own show, maybe I can work for other people, and that's all fine and dandy until one day, like this person, he was terminated. And this person said, well, that's unfair dismissal, and they've gone through the Fair Work Commission. So a couple of things that the Fair Work Commission took into account when they determined if this person was an employee or an independent contractor. So one of the things they said is that this person, his name was Mr. Franco, he was presented as part of the Deliveroo business, which is important as to how do you present yourself to third parties when you're delivering whatever he was delivering, food or other items. So he was wearing a Deliveroo uniform and using Deliveroo branded equipment. So the Fair Work Commission thought, well, that's important to take that into account, because he's presenting himself as part of the business, and the organisation of Deliveroo must be an employee.
He's representing them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Clearly.
That's right. So the other things that they took into account was the app system. So obviously Deliveroo and perhaps other companies similar use an app system where they can track and monitor their staff, employees, independent contractors, and how long that they're out there on their shifts delivering food. How long does it take? And it was quite pertinent here too, because they were saying that this particular person was too slow in his deliveries, and that's the reason why he was terminated. So they said that the app system organises shifts, indirectly controlled the amount of time that he worked. So that was important for the Fair Work Commission to take that into account. So that was important. And of course, the app system measured the work performance in minute detail. So those are the things that they took into account. So that's when I said at the beginning, each case is determined on its individual merit and circumstances for any matter. And likewise with this one. So I thought it was quite interesting, though, that Deliveroo in their arguments tried to turn it around and say that, well, we consider him an independent contractor because we think he's a bit of an entrepreneur, because he's not just working for Deliveroo, he's working for Uber Eats and other companies alike, and he's creating and generating goodwill between all of those, and he could open up his own business. So really, he's an entrepreneur. So that makes him an independent contractor. And the Fair Work Commission said, no.
Not having any of that.
Yeah, we don't agree with that. There's no really goodwill here. What he's doing is he's working for you, Deliveroo. He's got your uniform on. You're using your app to track him, to monitor his time. And goodwill, I mean, wasn't he in a traineeship as well? So I don't really know how he could generate goodwill and be classed as an entrepreneur. Nice try, but not here, no.
Yeah. Of course, in his situation, as you say, there was the app and also the uniform. Now, of course, not everyone who works has an app to follow them or wears a uniform.
That's exactly right. They don't. So, and the app was important because if you're an independent contractor, you're supposed to be able to retain control to a large extent about what you do, when you do it, how you do it. But this app couldn't do that. So he wasn't controlling the app. Deliveroo was controlling that. So that was their app that they used to track him. So the person couldn't control how to use the app. He just had to use it. And Deliveroo was the recipient of the information and therefore could control various things by using that app about how long he was supposed to go, his shifts, where he was going. So yeah, it was a really interesting outcome, and I think this particular case will be used in the future with other people in similar circumstances. So keep that in mind for those that are listening. If you do, unfortunately, are in a situation in the future where you are sacked or terminated and you think it's unfair dismissal, and you could actually remember this case and say, well, they've done this because, or they think that I'm an independent contractor. Well, am I? Am I an independent contractor or am I an employee? And maybe it's good for you to look at your situation now anyway and work that out.
And if you're not sure, you really should ask your employer how they consider you. Even if you've been working there for a year or 2 years.
That's right, I think, and to ask them and to document the terms of the employment or the terms of the arrangement is probably best, and have a look at what they say the terms of the arrangement are, then look at that, go to the Fair Work Commission website and even give them a call and have a chat with someone there to give you that guidance and direction so you know what you're doing in the future. Because being an employee, of course, versus an independent contractor, you do have different rights and obligations because you've got entitlements, you've got employee entitlements that have to be paid out if you are dismissed down the track, or redundancy payments and all sorts of things. Are you entitled to long service leave, annual leave, sick leave? All of these things are important, and employees are entitled to those, and independent contractors not necessarily. So and that's important for people to understand as well, what they have and what they don't have as quote-unquote entitlements.
Yeah, and those entitlements as well, straight after this, there were people protesting outside of Uber, obviously, because they're a similar kind of line of work.
Yes.
And they had a scary statistic as well, that 5 delivery drivers in the space of 2 months died. So now, and that was on call during those work hours.
Right.
And now they've said, obviously, we're not even covered by any sort of benefits, and we're rushing around trying to meet these minutes.
So that's very important.
It's life-threatening almost.
Yes, and that's an important consequence in terms of cover, in terms of insurance, and what happens in the unfortunate situation of a death. So even more the reason for people to sort out and clarify whether they are independent contractor or employee.
Yep, it's important to do it today, perhaps. This is Talking Law on Radio 97. Despina Priala is here with us every Thursday morning, and if you have a question to do with the law, just drop it in an email and send it to breakfast@radio97.com.au. After the break, If you spend more than $300 or $400 just sitting there shopping for shoes, and you prefer not to pay for your lawyer, we've got some news for you.